welcome to the August 2017 edition of the So Creative Club. This has got lots of options. You can make it bigger, you can make it smaller, you could embroider it, you could fussy cut it, you can do decorative stitches. There's a lot you can do with this design. So let's get started. Okay, in order to do this project, you are going to need 2 pieces of terry cloth, 9 inches by 26 inches, 2 pieces of terry cloth, 9 inches square. You're going to need 1 piece of Insulbrite, which is a insulated batting, which is going to be 9 inches by 26 inches, and 2 pieces of Insulbrite that are 9 inches square. You will need 2 pieces of fabric, 9 inches by 9 inches square. Now I'm going to embroider mine on them, so I made mine about 9.5 by 9.5, and that gives me a little bit of leeway when I'm doing the embroidery in case I get a little bit of puckering or drawing into the fabric. And what I did was I simply pressed them in a quarter so I could find a center point. You're going to need some binding fabric, and it's 2 inches wide, and you need about 100 inches, 110 inches of continuous border fabric. It does not need to be bias. It can be just regular, straight of the grain. And I cut about 3 strips of 2 inches, and we'll prepare that in a little bit. For the applique, you are going to need, it's a cupcake that I'm putting on here, so for the base of the cupcake, just plain white. Top of my cupcake I'm going to do in pink, so, or a hot pink. And then for embroidery, you're going to need to use tearaway stabilizer, and the design fits in a 4x4 hoop, so no problem. You're going to need some various colors of thread. Okay, in addition to the embroidery foot and the general purpose foot on your sewing machine, you're going to need to use a walking foot because we're going to do some quilting by walking feet. You're also going to need a stitch in the ditch foot. You can use a regular general purpose, but this is nice because it's got a little blade down the center that helps you align your stitches so that it goes right in the ditch. You're going to need some embroidery thread. So what we're going to use is, for this one, some white for the bottom, yellow for my quilting, and for that I'm going to need a bobbin of the same thread, a burgundy, brown for the stem, pink for the cupcake, and then green regular sewing thread with a bobbin also wound in the same color that matches my binding fabric. Okay, so I think we have everything ready. It also helps to have a good marking pen to mark your center. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, now let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is embroider the decorative pieces. So I have marked my center a little darker so you can see it. Now, I don't have my template here. I must have left it at work, but I can use the hoop to get a general idea. And like I said, this doesn't have to be perfect because I made the piece a little bigger than what I need. So, in case I don't get it straight. See these little knobs? These are close to the center of the center of your hoop. So I'm just lining them up, them inside, and loosen this a little bit. Okay, so now we're going to go to the machine. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is load the design into the machine. I've got it on my jump stick. So I select, it's in my AAA folder. I put that there because it's easy to find. And I want to select the cupcake. And it's 4 inches by 4 inches, so we're good. It's actually less than that, so we have a little bit of wiggle room. And now I'm going to go and edit, sewing, and I'm going to use my arrow keys, these arrow keys, to line this up. Line the center of the design, which is right there. If you have a sewing machine that has an I-beam, or like the Destiny, and actually that's pretty close. Scoot over just a tiny bit, and down a little bit. Okay, really good. Okay, so the first thing it's going to work is on the cupcake, and I'm going to leave white thread in for that. So the first stitch is going to show me the placement. Okay. And you're going to need about a 2" by 2" piece, or maybe 3 inches by 3 inches, or just a scrap of white fabric. And we have a thunderstorm coming up. Okay, this will be fun. So I'm just going to put my fabric down so that it covers all of the stitching, and then we're going to go ahead and stitch the tack down. And next I'm going to remove the hoop from the machine, but I'm going to leave the fabric in the hoop. And I'm going to cut the excess fabric around the applique, and I want to cut rather close. So I'll just do a little bit of it here. If you use a curved pair of scissors, it makes it easier, so you just push up against the stitching and just cut away. Okay, I will do this off camera. Okay, I'm going to return the hoop to the machine. I'm going to leave white in there because now it's going to do a seal down stitch and a little bit of detail work. So I'm just going to stitch it. And we'll speed this up because this is like kind of boring. Next, I'm putting hot pink into the needle and still leaving the regular white embroidered bobbin thread in the bobbin. And we're going to do the placement for the top of the cupcake, or frosting of the cupcake. And now that we've done the placement stitch for the frosting on the cupcake, I'm going to put this hot pink down. Okay, and I'm going to cover all that stitching and do an outline. And I'm going to be cutting away the excess fabric from outside the stitching line, and I'll go ahead and do that off camera. I have cut out all of the excess fabric from around the stitching line, and now I'm going to seal it in with the same color. It's going to do a little bit of detail work, and it's going to seal in the edges with a satin stitch. And I'm going to go ahead and speed this up so that it doesn't take forever. Alright, after it's done doing the frosting on the cupcake, we're going to stitch the cherry, and I've put red into my needle. The next color, which is color stop number 11, is going to be the white on the cherry. That's just a little bit of a highlight. And next I'm going to do brown for both the highlight, the dent on the top of the cherry, as well as the stem of the cherry. So I'm going to put a dark brown for the next two. And now the stem. And then this is done. Okay, and next I'm going to go ahead and remove it from the machine. Take the stabilizer out of the back, give it a good press, and set it aside until we're ready with for the next step. Okay, I'm going to be making this project for my friend Melody. So for the other side, I have already hooped the fabric and the stabilizer just like I did before. And this time I used my editing software or lettering software or digitizing, whatever you have, or even within the machine you can put in the lettering. But I've put it how I wanted it for my friend Melody. And it says, from Melody's Kitchen. Okay. I'm going to use black thread in my needle. And I'm using polyester, so I'm probably going to loosen my tension just a little bit because polyester thread has a tendency to do a little stretch. So you just get a little bit better stitch if you loosen your tension. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and let it stitch. Okay, all finished, so I'm going to remove the hoop from the machine, take the fabric out, remove the stabilizer, just tear it away. You don't have to get every little bit of it, it's going to be inside, you won't see it. So just tear that away. And now we're going to set this aside until we're ready to finish constructing the pot holder. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to prepare some binding. So I'm going to add pieces together to make long binding. So I have at least 100 and something inches worth of binding. What I want to do, this is my favorite glue technique, I'm going to fold this over 90 degrees. Give it a good press. Take a little, don't get burned. Take a little bit of glue right along the edge, and this is just Elmer's washable school glue. Take the next piece, lay it over so that it matches right at the edges. This makes a straight line. He'd set that down. Okay, and notice it sticks together. And I need 3 of them together, so I'm going to go ahead and do it again. Heat set. Press the line. Place this. Now I'm working right side down. Heat set that in place. Now when I open this up, you can see the line, and I'll go ahead and mark this so you can see this. And I'm just going to make this darker just so you can see it better. Where that line is. Then I simply sew right on that line. I'll have a perfect mitered piece of binding. Then we'll go to the sewing machine and sew it. Okay, so I have sewn right on the line, exactly right on that line. I'm going to pop the glue. Best to do that while it is a big piece. Turn it back to a 1/4 inch seam. And press it open. Okay, and same thing on this side. For this project, the binding does not need to be on the bias. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold this in half and press it. Now, I like to spray starch it first. Ordinary spray starch, not clear and press, not sizing. Ordinary spray starch, and just spray the whole length. Press it together. Get it relatively wet. Because that spray starch acts sort of like a basting glue to hold it together without shifting and sliding and puckering. And I just simply will go all the way down the end and press these edges dry. And notice now they don't slip. They're sort of stuck together. You can still get them apart, but they're kind of stuck together. So you don't get any of that shifting. Okay. Next we're going to go ahead and do the quilting on the pattern pieces. Okay, now we're going to construct the end bits. This is a polyester, which makes it a little slippery. And I'm going to put the metallic side on top. I'm going to use Web Bond spray. You could use KK2000 or 505 spray, but I like this one. And we have this one at the store. And get that out of there. I'm just going to spray it a little bit. This way I don't have to pin it down. This just puts it in place. And see, it sticks. Okay. Turn it over. Little bit of spray here. Just spraying it in the center. You don't need a lot. Okay. And press it down. Now we're going to go to the sewing machine. What I'm going to do is a grid. Maybe a 1-inch grid. So let's go to the sewing machine. Okay. For this I'm going to use the walking foot, and I need to remove the foot and the ankle. I put yellow bobbin thread into my machine, and I'm going to use green in the needle. And I am using I'm just using an embroidery needle for now. It's what I've got in the machine. You could use a top stitch needle or a quilting needle. I would not use a general purpose needle. The eye is a little too fine. Okay, so in order to put in the walking foot, you put the ankle part onto the screw, and right here, it is hard to see it, but right over the needle bar, this arm is right on the needle bar. Sometimes you need to twist it in order to get it on there. And I'm just going to use a straight stitch with about a 2.5 stitch length. And for this, I'm going to use the width of the foot. So I'm going to just start in the middle. You could use the quilting guides that actually attach to the back of the foot. Actually attach way to the back of this walking foot. If you have the digital dual feed on the newer machines, you can use that to help guide it. I'm just going to simply hold this flat, and because it's glued together I didn't have to pin it, and I'm going to lock it in. Wrong. Hit the reverse key, raise the needle, and I'll just start on the other end, go straight across. Lock in this stitch and go right down the end. I'm just going to cut. And I'm going to come all the way over to this edge and use this line of stitching as a guide. Usually I'll hold that straight. I'm down here. Usually I hold it so it doesn't advance. And I will finish stitching this off camera. Okay, here it is all quilted. I could cross hatch it. You could do decorative stitches. You could do free motion. I could even outline it, stippling, whatever you like on here, because on the back it's going to be on the inside anyway, but this is just a decorative part. I'm going to do this on the other piece also, and then after I'm done we're going to quilt the middle. Okay, now for the large 9" by 26" piece, I have sandwiched the Insul Bright between 2 layers of the terry cloth and put yellow thread in both the needle and the bobbin. This time I'm still going to use the walking foot, but this time I'm going to use this serpentine stitch, and it's in the utilities menu, and I'm going to make the stitch length, there's your normal stitch length of a 5 width and a 1 length. I would like that length to be at least 2, and I want the width to be as wide as, as wide as it will go. 7 is its maximum width, but you could again pick any quilting or design stitch, decorative stitch of your choice. So I'm just going to simply stitch this. Okay, I can have put the guide on the back of the machine. It's not particularly helpful there. So what I did is, here's my next 2" line, so I centered the machine onto that line, and I put this quilting bar, and it just attaches to the back so that it is in line with the last row of stitches that I did. Lower the presser foot. Oops, I'm going to lift that because it got stuck. And I use, what I'm looking at is right here, so that I can make sure I follow the line. When it gets too much, I'll just come this way. I usually work from the center out. So I'm going to go ahead and finish all of this, and it's just straight lines. Again, you can put as little or as much quilting as you like on it. I'm going to take it off for now because I've drawn my lines. If you have the machine with a laser beam, even better. I'm going to go ahead and finish this off camera. Okay, now that I've quilted it, here it is all finished, quilted. What I did was I now squared it up. And after the quilting, it turned out that the short little ones here, turned out to be 8 3/4 by 8 3/4. And my width here is 8 3/4. So I've trimmed it and squared it, and it turned out to be 25 3/4 of an inch. So that's close enough. It doesn't have to be exact.